Hey, and welcome back to Gasoline and Guns. This is going to be my short review of this V-Star 950. This is a 2009 model, but the basic bike has been unchanged from 2009 to current 2017 models. The base model has been discontinued. They only offer it as a touring model now, which includes the windshield, which this has the optional extra windshield on it, but it also includes lockable hard saddlebag. This does not have those installed. To buy those separate from Yamaha is about $1,300, and that just doesn't seem to be worth it when you can get perfectly serviceable aftermarket bags for the market of $200. So this is a 942cc, 57.5 cubic inch, air-cooled, fuel-injected V-twin, single overhead cam, 4-valve heads. In a 2010 comparison on motorcycle.com, this model put down 45 horsepower and 50.3 pound-feet of torque. That's right in the middle of where it should be competitively. The Vulcan 900 makes 50 and 51. The 750 Hondas, the Shadow, the Ace, all that stuff is like 65 and 40. And an 883 made 47 and 45. Those numbers all come from that same comparison test on the same dyno on the same day, so they're pretty valid comparisons. I don't have numbers for 1200 Sportster or the Suzuki's, but from other sources the Suzuki makes approximately the same, and in this other test the Suzuki made 43 horsepower. Other boring stuff: 616 pounds wet, measured in that same test. This is definitely a middleweight cruiser. Nothing lightweight about this bike. It's definitely not small. It's definitely a full-size machine. It's very hard to tell from standing next to it that it is sub-liter in class. It would be very easy to mistake this bike for its 1300cc big brother. And it doesn't feel undersized or too big. It's definitely a very good medium general purpose bike. Mechanically, this bike's been fine. There was a small recall. It was not really that important. I have had an issue where it's slightly difficult to find neutral when I'm stopped. Like if I'm coming down from second trying to get neutral, I'll sometimes get stuck shifting first, second, trying to get that neutral. Well, most importantly, it goes off fine when the motor's off, and it also goes in fine when moving. It's just a little tricky to get it in just right when stopped. I found the tiniest little bit of rev actually works really fine, but there have been a couple times where I find myself wasting the whole red light trying to put it in neutral. So this bike is one of the few bikes in its class that has floorboards and a heel toe shifter. They're a little on the small side, but I think that they're just about right for this medium-sized bike. It's super comfy to have floorboards instead of pegs. I didn't realize I would appreciate them as much as I do, but I really do like them. The only unfortunate downside is that they do limit corner and clearance a little bit, and I have scraped these floorboards more than once. It doesn't seem to really be a huge issue when I'm going like on back roads and sweepers and stuff, but in parking lots doing slow, tight turns, I have ground the floorboards a little bit. The suspension is great. It's real comfortable, but it's just firm enough that it doesn't really bottom out. And it's great on the freeway. It's plush, but without being too plush, where those expansion joints are just right. I don't know. It's a good suspension. I like it. Brakes are adequate. The rear is great, actually, but the front is only a single disc, and it's adequate. I would like a twin disc setup up front, but this is not a sport bike, and it stops the bike plenty quick when you're in a hurry too. This bike, it actually won Metric of the Year in 2009 from V-Twin magazine, which apparently was a big deal. It was even on Yamaha's website, but weirdly enough, you can't actually find that on the internet anymore. It's gone. One other annoying thing about this bike: this has a 4.5 gallon gas tank, and the low fuel lighter reserve comes on when there's 1 gallon left. On the dash, it'll automatically go from your trip odometer to a digital gauge that I think says how many gallons you have left, where it starts with 1 and then goes immediately to 0.9, slowly going down. But anyway, 4.5 gallons, 1 gallon reserve. That seems like it should be enough, right? 3.5 gallons should be plenty. It's supposed to get 47 miles per gallon, which should give you a range of 155 miles to your low fuel light. All things perfect. Turns out I have a heavy hand. I get about 35 miles per gallon on this bike, but mostly around city riding. There's a lot of wide open throttle pretending it's a sport bike going on, I'll be perfectly honest with you. But anyway, that gives me a fuel range of 125 miles until my reserve light, which is kind of annoying. I get like 200 miles out of my VFR, and I'm not any lighter on the throttle on that thing. So I really wish this was like a 5.5 gallon tank. That'd be great. Basic riding impressions of this thing, if I had to put it to 4 words, it'd be plush, smooth, fun, and slow. But it's not supposed to be fast. It's not a muscle bike. It's not a sport bike. The low end is there, and in the first 2 or 3 gears, it has some get up and move, but it's definitely no sport bike. But at the same time, because of how slow it is, you get to have fun. You actually get to freaking hold the throttle all the way open. Like, when was the last time you actually did that on your freaking R1? You hold the throttle all the way open in first gear. What are you doing, wheeling into the moon? Oh shoot, you pounded it through 3 gears all the way, full throttle. What are you doing, trying to go to jail? On this you can do that. That's fun. You get to make noise. The engine revs and, you shift. You ride it. Forgot how much fun it is to ride a slow bike. Pretty vibration free. Cruising on the freeway is good at about 70, which is weird because this speedometer is super optimistic. I had my GPS out on this thing and indicated 70 is about 60. So well, maybe not quite. So indicated 70 is about 63. Once you get going about 75, the vibrations are kind of annoying. They're manageable. It's not too bad. Plus, this bike's really not made for high-speed cruising. At 70, everything's great. And it'd be great if I could just turn on some cruise control or use a throttle lock cruise control. But you can't do that on this bike. And thank you, Yamaha, for using really weirdly sized switchgear that doesn't fit any of the standard metrics of accessories. Now, there is 1 or 2, but they're all nearly $300. You can't go and buy one of the basic throttle locks. Rocket on this thing. The switchgear for the kill switch is enormous. It's way too big and it doesn't work. Another thing that I've had, I don't want to call it an issue, but this bike likes to drift a little bit. Twice now, once in the wet and once on a perfectly dry, clean road. The back has gotten a little skittish turning. Now, the first time it happened, I assumed it was because of the wet conditions, and I pulled back a little bit. It wasn't really that wet, but cruiser, gotta slow down. But I wasn't even scraping boards. I was like 3/4 throttle in 2nd gear. I leaned over, and on dry pavement, I was shifting into 2nd, wide open. I leaned over. I don't know. It's not like I was really accelerating that hard because it's kind of a slow bike. I feel like these tires that they sell on these cruisers are a little limited compared to traditional sport bike rubber, or even sport touring bikes, or even sport touring tires. The tires I have on my Honda let me do way more than this. But I think that's just part of cruiser life. I'm not sure how I feel about cruiser life. The whole, slow jaunt down a twisty road, I enjoy it. It's much more relaxing, I guess is the right word for it. Would I buy a new one if I had the money? No. These things have been unchanged since 2009 when they were released. I don't understand why you'd buy a new one. I'm not even talking about, why you'd buy a 2016 holdover. But no. If I could find, a low mileage 20... Even if I had all the money to buy a new one, I don't think I would. Why? Why? It's exactly the same as the old ones. Find a clean old one. Great. Anyway, I've wasted enough of your time. You'll be seeing more of this bike. I'm really starting to like it, I think. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed my video, like and subscribe. And ride safe.